Hi everyone, this is Mrs. Crawford, and I'm doing a video on Unit 1.3 Day 2, which is on the translations section. Now, if you remember back from our first day when we did Introduction to Translations, we talked about that the key word with translations is slide. So in other words, if I translate something across a graph, I'm really just sliding it. I'm not turning it, I'm not flipping it like reflections or rotations. I'm just simply moving it across the graph. So what we're going to talk about in this lesson is how to read the directions that it gives you, because it's kind of written in kind of a different way than what we would normally see, and how do you put that into a graph format. So our focus on this one is just translations and using the rules for that. Hopefully it clicks. There we go. Okay. If you were in my class, then at the top of your page you should see a little picture that kind of looks like this. Now, if you have this picture on your notes, it might look a little bit different depending on how the color printed, so I apologize for that. Really what it's saying is that what this actually means is that if you look at our rule that we're given, so the rules we're going to do for translations, they kind of look like this format. And then you've got numbers filled in these like A, B spots. So this picture here kind of lays out what that means. So if you look at the arrow, it says when it's pointing, or when you're going to the left, it's when x is minus something. So if I have x minus 5, that's the same thing as going left 5. I have to move the whole shape left. If I have x plus something on the other hand, actually let's color code this. Did it in blue. If I have x plus 5, like over here, then that means I'm going to be going to the right 5. Now notice you can only move left or right if you're talking about the x part of it, because the x-axis only goes left to right. Okay, you wouldn't be able to move up or down on the x-axis. On the other hand, we've got the y-coordinates. If I do y minus something, like minus 5, that means it's going to move down 5, because the y-axis moves up and down, and minus would be negative. And then on the opposite side, we've got y plus, so if it was y plus 5, it would move the whole shape up 5. And on yours, I believe it already has those directions laid out if you're using my notes, Mrs. Crawford's notes. So moving on to the next one, let's actually put this into practice. We've got the vertices of ABC, and they already have them laid out for us. So we're going to start by drawing those in. So A is at -1, 1, so over 1, up 1. So this is A. Notice I'm not changing how I plot my points. That's the same way we've always plotted points. You don't change that. This is only when we move the graph that we are changing it. B is at 4, 1, and C is at 2, 4. Okay, so those are our 3 points. And I'm just going to go ahead and connect them like that. And notice I've still got the labels A, B, C where they belong. Now, if I look at my rule up here, that's going to tell me how I need to move this triangle. And remember, when I move it, I have to use the prime symbols. So if I look at my rule here, I've got x minus 4. Now look back at your key at the top of your page. If I have x minus something, that means I'm moving to the left. So that really means left 4. And y minus 2, if I go back to my key, y minus anything really means that I'm moving the shape down. Oops, wrong way. So this really means that it's down 2. And I know you can't really see that, but just realize that it's there. So now we're going to take the whole shape and do that with all of those points. So I'm going to start with A. So I'm going to move it left 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and down 2 puts it right here. So there's A prime. Same thing with B, move it 1, 2, 3, 4, and down 1, 2, and I get that spot. Plot that point, and little apostrophe means prime, remember? And lastly, let's go with C, 1, 2, 3, 4, down 2, 1, 2. And there's my C prime. Now notice if I did it correctly, my shape should look exactly the same. Same size, same triangle, just in a different spot. And looking at it, it does look like that. It looks like it's pretty close to what it was before. So I did that correctly. The next example underneath, you're going to try. So this one is a 4-sided figure. There's 4 points. So please pause right here and try this on your own. Start with your original points. See if you can correctly sketch this based on that, and then press play when you are ready to see the answer. All right, I'm going to start with just plotting my original points. So 1, 2 is A. 3, 3 is B. So A, B. 4, -1 is C. And 1, -2 is D. If you don't remember how to plot points, please ask a teacher in class or email one of us if you're outside of class right now, because you truly do need to know how to do that in order to actually move the points. So let's look at our rule. I've got x minus 4. Now look back at your chart at the top. If I do x minus something, is that moving to the left or is that moving to the right? So let's go back and check. If I have x minus 4, that means that I'm going to move left 4. So let's move everything left 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, no, I don't want to do that yet. Sorry. Left 4. And if I have y plus 2, if you think back to our chart up at the top, y plus anything means it's moving up. So it's up 2. Okay, so kind of similar to the one we just did, actually. So we're going to do it with all 4 points. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then up 2 this time. Oops, drew a little bit too much there. And this is A prime, remember. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, up 2. There's B prime. C is 1, 2, 3, 4, up 2. C prime and D prime. There's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, up 2. There's my D prime. So there's our new picture, our image. Remember, this is the pre-image, this is the image, and it's got all those prime symbols. You do have to have that to get full credit on the quiz. Next questions now, we're going to actually use the equation to figure out just from points. So notice there's no graph here. I'm not going to plot the points or anything, but I'm going to use the equation to figure out what the point should go to. Now, what is the image of A, which is 3, 2? What we really could have been doing in those previous problems is actually plug these numbers in like an equation. So if I look at this point right here, 3, 2, which one's the x coordinate? Well, that would be 3, and that means that 2 is the y coordinate. So if I plug those points in, because I'm trying to find the image, I'm trying to find what happens after I do this transformation, then I can plug 3 in right here. What's 3 plus 6 going to become? It's going to be 9. If I plug 2 in to the y spot, what's 2 minus 3? It's -1. That means the image, the new point, which is A prime, is going to be 9, -1. Now, what is the pre-image of C prime? That means I'm going backwards. So instead of plugging this in, this is the number that they got out of this equation when they plugged in the original. So I'm going to erase all this stuff here just to kind of get it out of the way. Get rid of all that. So in other words, something plus 6, x plus 6, had to equal 2 somehow. And y minus 3, something minus 3 had to have equaled -7. Okay, this is again the pre-image we're looking for. This is C prime they give us. This is what we got after moving stuff around. So it's really just a matter of solving for x. So if I move 6 over, then I get that x was originally -4. So the x-coordinate for C, not C prime, just regular C, was -4. The y-coordinate was also -4. So that means that C was originally at -4, -4. It moved right 6 and down 3. And that's how we got from this number to this number and this one to this one. Okay? So I want you to try the next two problems on your own and then check your work in a second. But please pause here and try those on your own. Okay, we're using the same equation for this one, so I've got -4, 1. I'm plugging that into here because this is the original point. I'm changing it using this equation, so I can just plug it in. -4 plus 6, because that's the x spot, is 2. 1 is the y spot, so 1 minus 3 is -2. Put them together, I should get 2, -2 for b prime. The last one, you had to find the pre-image, so you had to go backwards like this second one that we did. So that means that if they plugged x into the equation, they somehow got -3 out of it. Oops, I'm sorry. So x plus 6 somehow got -3, and y minus 3 somehow got -2. So work backwards. Subtract that. X was originally -9, and y was originally 1. So here's the original point for D. D prime was what it got when you changed it. Moving on to the last two problems. I'm going to do the first one with you. You guys are going to try the second one. So this first one says A prime, B prime, C prime is the image of ABC after a translation. Write a rule for the translation. So notice that this is A prime. The best way I've found to do these types of problems is to focus on just one point. So I'm going to focus on A and then its image A prime. So now what it's asking us to find is what happened to the shape. Did it move left, right, up, or down? Like what happened to the shape to get it from here to here? And I know that this is the starting point because there's no primes on those letters. There's prime symbols, those little tick marks on that, so this is what it ended with. Well, how did A get from here to down here? Well, let's start with left or right. Did it move to the right or did it move to the left? Well, to get to A prime, I have to start going this way, which is right 2. And then it had to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, down 5 units. Now that's what it is in words, but we've been practicing with the coordinate notation, which looks something like this guy. And I believe there's a blank on your page for you to fill this in. So now that I've got the words, I have to put that into my correct notation. Well, I know that right has to do with x, and down has to do with y, because remember my x-axis goes left to right, my y-axis goes up and down. Well, if I'm moving to the right, is that positive for x or negative? Check back at your chart. Right is positive. So that means for this one, it's x plus 2. What is down for y? Is that positive or negative? Check back at your chart. Down for y is -5. So for this one, since it's down 5, it's also going to be -5. So there's my final answer. There's the rule. And there it is in words. Okay, so now you guys are going to try the last one. I'm not going to give the answer for that, so try and check with somebody or check with the teacher, and you can see if you got that correct or not. The remaining problems on that backside are your assignment.